But the thing is, something burned in his heart. He understood the role of government, that relationship with government. We need to once again understand that. We need to be able to say that when you look at the situation in places like Rhode Island, when you look at the situation in many of these blue states, people know that something is not right. That's why Scott Walker was successful in Wisconsin. That's why they were successful in Michigan. That's why they're successful in going up and saying, we have the right type of policies. We have the right type of vision. We have the right things that ensure individual sovereignty and economic freedom returns. You know, when you look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, sure, it's at 14,000 some odd points. But go out on Main Street and talk to people. Go out and find out why we have a 3.6% decrease in household incomes. Go out and talk to people that are struggling, trying to fuel up their gas tanks. But yet you have an administration that will not abide by the decisions that the State Department has said about the Keystone XL pipeline. Go out and look at the fact that we have a Federal Reserve chairman that is printing money to the tunes of $85 billion per month so that we can buy up our own mortgage security debt and treasury bond debt. And what does that cause? It causes the value of that dollar that has that portrait that Gilbert Stuart created. So that now our purchasing power is less and less and less. Talk to the American people. Talk to the American people and tell them why, if a government is limited, if a government is fiscally responsible, that means the capital that is necessary for our small businesses to open up and grow. The capital that is necessary for our corporations and businesses and manufacturing to come back to these shores so that we can hire Americans once again. That will happen. Talk to the American people that it is now about becoming a dependency society and not an opportunity society. See, in 1961, when I was born in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, in the same neighborhood that Dr. King was brought up in 1961 in Fort Lauderdale, my parents could not have gone on the beaches in Fort Lauderdale. But 50 years later, when they celebrated the 50th year anniversary of the Wade-In, guess who was the member of Congress standing there to represent the beaches of Fort Lauderdale? It was me. Guess who was the member of Congress who stood and said, I represent the town of Palm Beach? It was me. We are the party of opportunity. We are the party that looks at a young man born in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, and says, you're not a victim. You don't have to be dependent. You can achieve whatever greatness, whatever your heart's desire. But the thing is that we refuse to go into the neighborhoods today and tell that story about the party of Lincoln, about who we are. See, we refuse to expose the other side and what they believe in. I call it the 4 S's. The Democrat Party has stood for this. They have stood for slavery. They have stood for secession. They have stood for segregation. If you don't believe me, go back and read. Jim Crow did not come from Republicans. Poll taxes and literacy tests did not come from Republicans. Lynching and mobs did not come from Republicans. And today, now, this party stands for socialism. And what does that mean? It means that they want to see nationalizing of production. If you go and you look at Dodd-Frank, a 2,400-page piece of legislation, what that does to the financial industry. If you go and look at the healthcare law, 2,700 pages, what does that do to the healthcare industry and the medical profession? Who would have ever thought that we would live in the United States of America where a private sector company will be told, you can't relocate your business to a right-to-work state? Absolutely. That's what nationalizing production is. If you think about what they believe in creating an expansion of a welfare state, a nanny state, the dependency state. We have 47 million people on food stamps in the United States of America. That's greater than the entire population of Spain. We have almost 48% increase in Americans on the poverty rolls. What does that mean? That means that we're no longer living in an opportunity society. We have gone from a fight against physical bondage, ladies and gentlemen, which is what they originally started out believing in, to a fight against economic bondage. When I tell people about a 21st century economic plantation, all you have to do, go to Detroit. Go to any inner city. Go to Chicago, go to my neighborhood in Atlanta, and that's what you see. When you think about how they have destroyed families, I'll just go back and look at what came out of the Great Society programs of Lyndon Johnson. When he said that we're going to give women that have children out of wedlock a check. And there was a Democrat senator that stood up and said, you will destroy families. And look at where we are in our inner cities now. Third, fourth generation. We have to be able to go everywhere with our message. And that's the strength of the party of Lincoln. That's the strength of a man that said, we are going to do this thing. We are going to pass that 13th Amendment. Well, I'll tell you right now, as you just said, we're going to win in Rhode Island because they didn't think it could be done in Wisconsin. They didn't think it could be done in Michigan. They didn't think that when those men were surrounded in December 1944 Bastogne, that they would ever break out. That's the fighting spirit that you must show. That's the fighting spirit that says even though you lose a congressional race, you don't fade away. You don't give up. You don't say, this was my congressional district. It belongs to the people, and the people are stupid enough to make a dumb decision. And guess what? They get the government that they deserve. But you continue to fight. My mother taught me that the measure of a man is not how many times he gets knocked down. The measure of a man is how many times he stands back up.